I've always like thrived on these deep conversations, and getting outside the norm. Like I'm tired of talking about sports and the weather and just monotonous topics. Like I live for these conversations, man, and to have the opportunity to talk to some of the people I've looked up to my whole life, podcasts I've listened to for years, getting to talk to people like yourselves. Like, you guys are freaking awesome. I love what you're doing. It's just overwhelmingly crazy to me, man, because like getting into this, you have this mindset like it's not going to happen or something, because you're like so stuck on old ways and how the past went in your life, and you're like, oh, I'm just always gonna be average. Like, I'm never gonna amount to anything special. Like, it's never gonna happen. Like, I know I always said it was. I always had these aspirations as a kid, but that was the past. Now I'm just working this dead-end job, and like nothing's ever gonna come of it. But once I really started to believe in myself and really put that message out there, and like try to inspire others to believe in themselves along the way, like being radically honest, like I'm flawed, like I'm imperfect, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm actively trying to talk to people that have different ideas than I have, and trying to build new ideas out of that, and just merging with like minds, but also merging with minds you might not agree with on everything, but finding the commonalities, building a bridge, finding that common ground, and just being able to influence the world in a way, man. And just I'm not just doing this for my own selfish desire to like live and have these conversations, but I get to share it with the world, man. And there's no better privilege than that, of just getting to share your message with the world.
Hey, yo, welcome to the Godcast.
The Lord told me to tell you, wake up, wake up, wake up.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
Was there an awakening moment?
So this is like an all-encompassing awakening.
It's all-encompassing.
Every day, as they would creep in, I would just have to stop and catch myself right in those moments and say, God, I trust you. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm giving you my fear.
And I also came to the understanding of what you're saying, what you can't have light without dark. But then I started having the thought of, well, if we didn't have nighttime and we didn't have the winter, then plants would never stop growing. So if we never had issues, then we would only grow more. The thing with me, I never got into the astrology stuff. I never got into really doing any kind of energy work until I was very firm with Jesus. And it's a thing with me and Jesus where like people are praying and I'll get the sudden urge to tell that person to give your burdens to Jesus, and they'll say like, oh, I was just trying to talk to Jesus.
Welcome to Godcast,
the Goodness Over Darkness podcast.
Here's your host, Emmanuel Kingman.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Godcast, the Goodness Over Darkness podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Kingman, and here with me is the lovely Mimi.
Hello.
Hello, my love. How are you?
I am well.
It is nice to have you on here. It's a late night on a Thursday, but I have off tomorrow. You have off tomorrow, so.
Sort of.
Yeah. So
some things to do in the morning.
So it is nice to be able to not be, rushed or stressed or anything on a late night call.
I'm hoping our plans don't get thwarted by the rain tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out, I guess. We'll see. Whatever happens.
We'll still go.
Yeah. So on today's episode, we had on special guest Andre Mytty. Mm-hmm. Andre is host of Ascension of the Chessmen, and he hooked me up with True Seeker and turned me on to his music and podcast and all that. That's been awesome in itself. But Andre is an amazing young gentleman himself. What did you think of our interview with Andre.
I really enjoyed this conversation. Ones like this where time, it doesn't exist and it flies by all at the same time. Those are my favorite conversations.
Yeah, I remember when I looked up the first time at the clock and said we're 20 minutes in, I was like, wait a second, what? We just started talking. And
when I looked up, it was like an hour and 40 minutes. I was like, really?
Yeah. It just goes by quick sometimes when you're.
Yeah, it was a good discussion.
Yeah, when you're just flowing off the top. And afterwards, he said it was maybe his best guest appearance. And he didn't have any idea what we were going to talk about, and neither did we. We were just like, hey, we're just going to.
Welcome to the show.
We're just going to talk about you, and whatever comes up. And I think it was a great conversation. I think that a lot of people can get some good stuff out of this.
There's some nuggets in there.
Yeah, I mean, he sounds, and I'm not trying to take away from anybody who has studied the psyche in a university sense, professional way. But at different times, I'm listening to him, and I'm like, yeah, that's what a psychologist would say. He's really studying the psyche. He is doing some really great work. He's
a great observer of self. He gets it.
Yeah. And I mean, he had me on his podcast, and that was a really fun time. And I just knew that we would have a great conversation. I think that was about a month ago almost. And I was like, oh, yeah, Andre, he'll come on and we'll be able to talk about a ton of things. I don't even have to write any notes down because it'll just be great. And it really was.
Yeah. Pre-show, I was looking up the podcast and checking out some of his guests, and I was like, I know 90% of these people, and I love these people, so this is going to be a good time.
Yeah. So we talked about, I mean, first we started by talking about the pedo rings, or at least we didn't get into anything real specific. We actually did talk about the Johnny Ghosh thing was mentioned in the Franklin scandal, and just how we kind of got to where we were, synchronicities and angel numbers. We talked about, it was like walking through from the beginning of our awakenings to different areas all the way up. So plant medicine we got into. We got into Christ as well.
Trauma talk and
a lot of trauma talk, not specifics.
Healing talk.
Just in a general sense of what it is, and also how we can control our reality, and what my first experience with experimenting with reality, my thoughts controlling reality was. And that was something that really changed me. It wasn't just that, but it was that, and also getting out of the parking lot of my apartment was very difficult because it was at a light. Well, it wasn't exactly at a light, but to get out, cars would be blocking the way because they'd be at the red light, and it would always make me frustrated that I couldn't get out. And then as soon as I stopped being frustrated, then it stopped happening to me. They would stop further back, or there would be no one there, and I could get out no problem. And it was God showing me that you're making this happen because you're not willing to not be angry about it. I don't know why my mic just did that. It did it in the episode too. It just unmuted or muted me for no reason. But anyway, God was just showing me that you're not ready to handle more of reality. You can't even handle this simple situation with being patient. Patience is another weakness of mine, but I'm getting better at it. It's good to recognize your weaknesses. We mentioned in the show, forgiveness is not a strength of mine at the moment. Not that it's not a strength, but it's one of my weaknesses.
No, but I got that it is definitely the bridge between heaven and hell. Is forgiveness and love is the bridge, is the rainbow, that's where it's at. Love and forgiveness. That's the key.
And I have forgiven a lot, actually, but I want to be better at it. So when I say it's a weakness of mine, it's because it's something I recognize in myself that I want to strengthen. I don't want any to give off the wrong impression, because I have forgiven my daughter's mom for everything that she did when we were together. And I mean, I have no gripes with her at all. I've completely forgiven that. So maybe I'm a little bit better at forgiveness than I give myself credit for, but I know that I can become better. I can
Yeah,
become
it's a daily
stronger.
practice for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and you want to be like this guy right here, Jesus. He's forgives everything. He forgives everybody, and he gives grace. And wherever you are, whatever you've done, he'll forgive you. That's what it's all about.
It's true. God's grace.
Yes. I think that's going to do it for the intro. Keep it brief on this one.
All right.
What? Wait, you
Get on
don't.
to the good stuff.
Wait, yeah, you love talking. Don't pretend that you don't want to sit here and talk.
Right. You guys know how much I love to talk and how
Yeah.
much he is quiet.
Yeah, she loves to talk. Don't let her fool you and her, with
I'm not
that
fooling
smirk.
anyone.
Yeah, no, you're not.
I'm not the one that walks in the door and has to tell like hour-long stories immediately.
I don't even know what she's talking about.
All right. That's the game we'll play today. I can't wait to get into this interview.
All right. So I think that'll do it for the intro. Make sure you go to my website, EmmanuelKingman.com. That's IMMANUEL Kingman.com. There you can check out the cloud photos that I have. You can check out all the photos from St. Augustine. I didn't upload the photos from the mountains yet, because loading the photos, it takes so long. I'll have to make a new page for it, but it ends up taking hours. The more photos that you add, the longer it takes.
Yeah, that's
and
why my website's lagging behind. Months
Yeah.
and months of new stuff.
Yeah, because all you guys do on there is photos. But anyway, I'll have to get the links in the description for your new links in the description. They didn't make it in Dr. Amy's episode. You didn't get them to me in time, so they'll be in this one because you did send them to me. Now I just have to find them. I'll just go back in my messages. But yeah, go to my website you can check out the clouds. You can check out my blog. The WTF is a Tartarian is still up there, and I have a bunch of comments on there. You can comment on my blogs. You can hit the like button, I believe, or heart is on there, I think. So you can do that. You can interact with it. I appreciate that type of stuff. It makes me feel like I'm doing something worthy when people comment and interact. And you can also, on this episode, wherever you're watching it from, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Spotify has a star system now, so you can give my episodes different star ratings, or maybe it's just my podcast in general. I'm not sure how it works. I just noticed it the other day. So you can do a little rate and review there. Apple, I know they have it. And you can subscribe, and you can hit the notification bell on YouTube, because I always do the videos. I try to premiere them in the afternoon, so the audio podcast comes out in the morning for those that like the audio when they're at work and they're not able to watch the video. But I do the video premiere. Again, my mic just got muted for no reason. But I like doing the videos in the afternoon for those who are in office jobs and don't want to be doing work and want to play a podcast video, or if someone's home, I put it on in the afternoon for you. So that's why I do it that way, and it's been working out pretty good, I think. So there's that. Yeah, make sure you go check out Andre's podcast, Ascension of the Chessmen. And you can rate and review all his stuff too. I mean, he has a ton of great guests. He had on a guest that talked about sovereign citizen type of stuff, and it was a really good episode. That guy really knows his stuff. I forget what his name was. Paul Unslaved, I think. Was episode 58, I think.
Jerry Marzinski.
No, that is not him. No.
Paul Unslaved. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I have it right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really like that sovereign citizen stuff. I need to find out more about it. It's a process, but you can go check out that episode. It'll get you started.
You know, I never watched that Loose Change video you guys.
You never watched Loose Change?
Yeah, no, I guess I have to watch.
It's about 9/11.
Yeah, I don't think I watched it.
Yeah, you should probably watch it. There's a ton of different parts.
Or the other one, The Conspiracy of Silence. I don't think I've seen that one either.
No, I haven't heard of that one. That's new to me. But that's about the Franklin scandal, and that's what we jump into. So make sure you go check out all that stuff. Help out the show, whatever capacity that you can. And after the bridge will be the interview. And also leave some comments about what do you think about the bridge. Go check out Nomad's work, but let us know what you think about it. So get ready, because here it comes. Do you hear it? All right. We will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Welcome to the Godcast. Cross up on my back, I'm slaying demons. It don't matter what you call that. Searching for the truth, facts are facts until they fall flat. It's looking like a story, man, it's all cap. But it's goodness over darkness, it ain't all bad. I'm at my maker, but I was called back. Emmanuel, show my people they're under a spell. Heaven or hell is free will. I made my choice and now it's well with my soul. I pray the same for you as well. Welcome to the Godcast. Welcome to the Godcast.
Hello, everybody. On today's episode, I have on a guest who is trying to ascend one day at a time. He worked with plant medicines and hosts several podcasts where he talks to very interesting individuals. He is host of Ascension of the Chessmen. Everyone welcome Andre Mytty to the show. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you guys doing? Thank you so much for having me on, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You had me on your podcast, and you introduced me to Truth Seeker. Not that, you literally introduced me to him, but you told me about him. And there were so many synchronicities, and then I linked up with him, and it's just been the synchronicities that I have in my life are just impossible to
dude, but the syncs lately have been insane. Like just the other day, it was like looking at the clock every hour. It was 1:11, 2:22, 3:33, 4:44, 5:55. And then I'm like, well, can't get 666, so it ends there. But then I was at the gym, and I was just running on the treadmill like I normally do. I don't have like a set time I go, so this is why it was like Truman Show-esque to me, or like simulation almost. Like this kid was running around the track I had seen in the exact same spot when I was running on the treadmill, like in the mirror, and I was like, it was like that deja vu feeling, it was it was just eerie, and I just see that stuff as like winks from God.
Yeah, I avoid the numbers and all that, the clock and the numbers, because I mean, it's so hard to not say it, but I try not to look at time at all anymore, because when I start to look at it, then it's like there's no explanation. No one can tell you anything. Your prices, everything is just adding.
Pick a number and a number.
Yeah, like today I was at Dollar General, and the woman's like, "Oh, look at all these angel numbers," and it was like 42.24 or something, or I don't know, whatever it was.
Anything can mean anything.
Yeah, so I'm just like, it means nothing to me now.
But the synchronicities,
because I used to pay attention to it, then it did mean something when you're first awakening. I mean, it not that it doesn't.
It could take you down a rabbit hole.
right. I'm trying to avoid it, so I'm like, nope, shut that out. And I try to pay attention to certain things that That so God changes the synchronicities, and like you said, they'll put somebody on a treadmill, in the same spot at the same time, and it's like, this is weird. Like I don't know what it is, but there's something off about what's happening right now.
Does make life easier though when you start to catch them. You're like, oh, I guess I'm doing the right thing because there it is.
That's the way I see it. It's just like, okay, like it's like a checkpoint.
Yes.
Like you're going by and you're like, oh, I guess I'm heading in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
And
the way
I think the numbers are like the first step. It's like when you start noticing them, then you can start noticing other things. And because God is the ultimate mathematician, it would start with the numbers. It starts with the code, and then it changes the rest of the simulation as you start to become more aware.
Yeah, that's so on point, man. Yeah, I just think if you take it too far, you're Googling what does the angel number mean, and then you're reading 3 pages
like
of
WebMD.
interpretation.
Gives you the extreme answer first.
Where I was born, so my parents bought this house, and this is a weird thing because my parents told me that they bought it 6 months before I was born. My older brother told me that he was born already, so that he was about 2.5 when they got the house. So I don't know exactly when my parents got this house. I don't think they even know, because if my brother was just a baby and he's saying, I was 2.5, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. So anyway, my parents bought this house and my address was 1111. I'm not going to say the street name, but I was born at 1111, and her aunt is 2222.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
I want to
wild.
add to your 111 because when I went to
1111,
when I went up there to help you move back down, my flight cost $111.10. And then the back of the U-Haul, the license plate added up to 1111.
Yeah.
That's
It's
wild.
very strange.
Yeah, and I think my license plate.
But we don't follow that.
My license plate adds up to that. Well, I mean, that's why, because there's so many. You can look at everything.
You can't keep up.
I guess at the time they happen is
when we went to a Save the Children rally in Savannah. We were into Q. I was wearing a Q hat and a Q shirt, and our bill that day was $71.17. And it's like 17 is the
76.
Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. So everyone was always saying 17, and the mirror effect. So it was 7117 on the day that I went to an event wearing 2 things that said Q. So it was, synchronicities just never end. So we could we could go on and on about the numbers. That's the thing.
That was
about
like
them.
Kindergarten,
That
for the awakening, the Q thing's like kindergarten, and then you're like, oh, that was nonsense, and you just grow.
Well, I think it was the hope, really. That's what really got me, is that because it's like when you start awakening, you're like, oh, especially at that time, I'm waking up while this is becoming a thing, and then it's going hand in hand. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm learning about these dark rings. I don't want to say any triggering words on here, but these dark things that are happening in the universe, these satanic people that are running the world. And then you have this, everyone's talking about, this guy who's president. It turns out that he's arresting more pedophiles are being arrested under him than anyone else. And then you start to look into it, and it gives you hope, and that's what sucks you in. And then they drop the hammer and put Joe Biden as president, and he can't even say a sentence. And it's like, there you go.
All the anomalies too. Yeah, I mean, it was hard not to fall for it. And believe me, I was definitely paying attention to it. I saw a lot of anomalies, like I said, and a lot of eerie stuff that was like, how do you not see this, or how do people see this as just a coincidence? And it was just one of those things. You just kept wanting it to be true. You're like, please, just someone come save us. And it was like the false messiah thing.
Exactly.
Someone had to play that role. And man, it's kind of crazy. Did you just get into the pedophile rings like recently? around that time, around 2016 when Q was kind of taking off?
No, so this was
Like
for me was
2018.
29, yeah, the end of 2019, 2020. But so when Pizzagate came out, like I heard it and I was like, "Oh yeah." I just inherently knew. I was like, "Yeah, that's a real thing." Like maybe not exactly the way they
Yeah.
talk about it, but that type of stuff is happening. And I remember having a conversation with my dad in 2017, and this was before I was in any conspiracy theory. I was still fresh out of prison at that time. So I wasn't even, so 2016, I was in prison. So I wasn't even, I had no idea any of that stuff was going on. But I just instinctually knew. And me and my dad had a conversation. And I was like, look, if he's really taking down pedophiles, then all right, that's pretty
How bad
awesome.
can he be?
Not how bad can he be, but that's pretty awesome. And, things, they work out the way, and I see things now. I have more evidence, so of course I'm allowed to change my opinion whenever.
No.
And
I was. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just asked when you started hearing about it because I remember watching a documentary because I started getting into conspiracies around 2011, 2012. I think I watched Loose Change 9/11 in 2011, my senior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
And it really opened my mind. I watched a documentary on cannabis called The Union, the Business Behind Getting High. And it kind of told the story of how hemp was made illegal along with marijuana, which is, it won't get you high. It has over 100,000 uses. And it just kind of blew my mind about how much we'd been lied to about this plant, which could, exterminate a lot of industries that are essentially like ruining our environment. And I was like, why aren't we utilizing this? And not only not utilizing this, we're actively lying about its potential as of use in a numerous amount of ways. I mean, housing, fuel,
clothing.
take the place of plastics. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so that really started to get me to question things. And I remember a random buddy of mine showed me a video on the Illuminati, and that just sent me down an endless rabbit hole, man, of, diving into everything back then I could get my hands on. And I ended up finding this documentary called The Conspiracy of Silence, which I believe was on the Discovery Channel, but it got banned. And it was talking about, it was talking about this pedophile ring that was shipping boys out of Boys Town in Omaha, Nebraska, really close to where I grew up, to Washington, D.C., to Bush and, a lot of these big players. Yeah. And it was all related to Boys Town, the high school in Omaha. And, they were essentially like pimping boys out to these politicians. And
I actually meant the Franklin scandal, and not the Finders School.
Yeah, Franklin scandal. Yep, that's what I meant to say. And there was that book about it. There's a couple news articles that like were barely in the news, and then right away like brushed under the rug, and you never heard about it again. Yeah. And I mean, I went to a Catholic high school. Like we competed against Boys Town. Wow. They had, troubled youth from all over the country. So they were really athletic. I mean, they had a lot of African-American players and tremendous athletes. And, so that whole story hit close to home, like having directly, been to this place, like played against them in sports in high school. And then a cousin of mine, John, he had started to get into this stuff as well. And we really started to pick each other's brains about it. And it turns out a friend of his had dinner with Johnny Gosh's mother, Noreen Gosh.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, because they lived in Des Moines, Iowa, where Johnny Gosh grew up. And my cousin John, he was the same age, and he used to deliver papers just like Johnny, and they were around the same age when he got kidnapped.
Wow.
And it was just eerie as hell, like that whole story and how those tied together. and just like where I grew up and how they were so close to home, man. Like, and that's when
Yeah.
I really started to open my eyes to, wow, like this is right on our doorstep if we only have the eyes to
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, well, Josh and Jason Monday do a great breakdown on the Gosh or Gosh, however you say it, on his story. So if anyone
Yeah.
listening is unfamiliar with it, go to their podcast and check that out because, I mean, it is a wild, wild story. And you said you saw a loose change in 2011. I think I saw it in 2004. And
Oh,
even,
really?
yeah, I saw it like right away. Me and my brother,
Yeah.
my older brother is 4 years older than me. We were into it, boom, right away. And I think he might have showed me. And right away, I'm like, oh yeah, like I can see that. Like I never trusted authority. I never had really respect for authority, which kind of I mean, led me down a path
Yeah.
that I'm at now. You know, now I respect the laws because I
Came
have
full
to
circle.
operate within them, but I don't respect the people who think that they can
Uphold
tell us
them.
what to do, right? And
Right.
especially once you find out about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, I mean, uh, so when I talk to my parents and my mom says, I believe that to some degree there is billionaires are doing things that they shouldn't be doing and getting away with it, but I don't think it's as expansive as you make it sound. And I'm like, yeah, I wish it were that way, but
Mm.
who were their clients? Why
Right.
is that not made public? Why are they going after these two people? Why is it that 2 days after Ghislaine Maxwell's found guilty that the security guards that were
Yeah.
supposed to watch, were on watch when Epstein, quote unquote, killed himself, they got let off? Why is that?
And the
Because
footage just goes magically missing. Like,
yeah,
what?
and that's the thing when we put our hope into politicians because and there's still such weird stuff happening now. There really is a lot of weird stuff, and there was a lot of weird stuff with what's Guantanamo, how it was like $1 billion or whatever was put into it, fixed it up, and now it went from like closing down to now it's more
Fully
structured than
operational.
ever.
Yeah.
But you
Jeez.
got all the weird stuff with Tom Hanks on the Saturday Night Live right around when COVID
Right.
started. You had all the different celebrity weird things that are happening, and still today with the green screen with our current president, and
Right.
apparently they're not even allowed in the White House because they don't ever go in there. They go in a fake White House set that's across the street. You got concrete barriers being put around the White House. You have the military who's practicing overthrowing illegitimate governments in Fort Bragg, and
Currently.
yeah, and I think it ends in a few days.
Mhm.
But it's such a weird, like, what is happening? China
Weirdest.
has, yeah, China has an artificial
Schizophrenic.
sun and 3 artificial moons
Yeah.
about to be released. They're trying to block out the sun by 2023. I mean, what is happening? What is
Crazy, dude.
what are they trying to stop? I honestly think that Christ is coming for judgment, and that's what they're trying to stop it. And they're trying to enclose us into a deeper, faker world so that we don't face judgment because I think they've
Yeah.
been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an aspect of that, in my opinion, of it's like, they're trying to get us removed from the natural
Yeah.
world and the organic existence to this, artificial, technological paradise. Like
Mhm.
it's like they're showing us this paradise in front of our face, like it's this mirage. We're in the desert, just like trying to find water, and they're like showing us this awesome mirage of what this technological salvation they're making it seem as is going to be. And it's like, it doesn't sound appealing at all. Like, and that's where I think there's going to be a crossroads, is like, which way are we going to proceed? Are we going to choose to go that route? Do you think everyone's going to fully buy into that? I don't know, man. I think there's a lot bigger resistance than we can even fathom. And I think more people are waking up than ever. And I think
Yeah.
you guys might agree with that.
I agree with
Well,
that.
I think it's like
this-
the bell curve. I think that there's 5% that really want that, out of the masses. We're going to take out
Right.
the people that are trying to push it, but just the regular people, I think there's 5% that really want to live in the metaverse, and then there's 5% of people that really love regular Earth, and we see what's going on, and then everyone else is kind of in the middle somewhere, and they could, either way. I could go live in the metaverse, sure. I don't really like my existence, but someone like you who loves life, who loves the natural world, you're like, nah, that's not for me. But someone who is hasn't worked on themselves to get out their emotional traumas, and they don't like the way they look, they don't like what they're doing in life, and
Yeah.
they've been taking the blue pill, so to speak, but even maybe literally taking a Xanax because they're prescribed it because they're depressed. They're like, well, life, putting on those goggles and pretending that I'm some millionaire who has hot chicks and all the stuff that I want is a much better existence than what I actually have. So sure, I'll switch places with this entity that wants to take my body, just so I don't have to deal with the day-to-day slavery that they know they shouldn't be in, but they don't know that they can fight against, or maybe they're programmed to not fight against. What's your opinion on that?
Can you rephrase that a bit? I'm sorry. I was tracking until that very end.
So what's your opinion on the person who doesn't know that they can fight against what's happening, or are they programmed to not fight against it? Is it a will thing that they don't want to fight against it, or is it something that they're programmed and they actually can't fight against it?
I think it's a little of both.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Mimi there. Yeah, I think it's a little of both. I think it's a case by case basis, and everyone's got a different scenario going on in their lives and in their minds of what their reason is for not changing or not getting out of their comfort zone or continuing this cycle of dysfunction they're stuck in. And it's tough because we don't have there's that quote that's often thrown around of like you become who you're most often surrounded with, or like the 5 people around you equate to how successful you'll be or whatever. And it's like, if you're just stuck in a negative cesspool of a bad environment that's around you, like there's got to be something within you to want to change. Otherwise, if you don't change your surroundings, it's not going to happen. And it's a hard environment to make a change in if you can't see that the people around you are reflecting your internal dialogue. So I guess it's kind of up to you to make that switch. But I think in our society and the way things are going, we're just kind of we crave comfort, and we're afraid to be individuals and speak out of the herd or get out of line, do what no one else is doing. Like, we just want to fit in with our friends, so we're going to have that beer, or we're going to pop that pill, whatever it may be, whatever the group is doing, whether it's the jabs, whatever. I think it just comes down to group think and not losing yourself in these groups you surround yourself with. Even relationships can be tricky, if you don't remember who you are going in. God forbid it were ever to come to an end, like you don't lose yourself in that person, and then you're having to go through therapy just because of a relationship. But where did that initial problem start from? It was probably from childhood, when someone hurt your feelings, or your parents took something away from you, or you had to earn their love. It wasn't just given unconditionally, like there was conditions put on it. And it's a deep rabbit hole we could go down. But yeah, this is what I'm all about, man. It's just exploring all options possible.
Yeah, and I love that. It's psychology. It's the study of the psyche. It's something that we can all do And you
Yeah.
don't need a degree. You don't need to go to school. You don't need someone to teach you. But
Right.
what we're doing as these people who are healing ourselves and showing others how we have done it and that they can too do it, we are psychologists. We aren't
Mm.
degreed, and maybe there are so many techniques that we have no idea about, but we don't need to know that. We just study ourselves and our
Yeah.
own psyche. And when we start to, I mean, you're saying some things here that sound like a professional psychologist would say. And I hear, and you would just classify yourself as a regular guy who
Yeah.
lives in a regular town and a regular place, and you're just doing what you like. And I mean, it really sounds to me like you have stumbled onto something. It's brilliance, really. So what was it for you that really brought you to start studying yourself?
For me, man, I like I said, when I was getting into conspiracies many years ago, there was a lot of fear that came with that. And my approach at first was to like want to grab a megaphone and just drive around in the streets yelling at everyone to wake up, like pull Alex Jones. But I quickly found out that everyone was gonna think I was a delusional idiot, like that didn't know anything and was the crazy black sheep of the family, like. And it just I just kind of learned over time that I got to take a different approach, and it just all came full circle and came back to me. Like I got to work on myself. I got to be the change. I can't want to see all this change if I'm not doing anything to change myself and be a better reflection for these people I'm pointing fingers at in the world, like the Bill Gates or the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, whoever, like name the worst of the worst in anyone's opinion. Like whatever you hate, there's a piece of that in you. And I feel like until we have that humility, we're going to continue to see the problems in the world. But for me, I had some transcendent experiences with plant medicine, and that's why I'm careful about how I frame that, because I'm not ever trying to say plant medicines are a fix all and it's like a magic pill you're going to take and you're going to be a completely different person. I mean, there's some aspects to that that are true in the right set and setting, and if everything goes well, but that's not always the case, and it's not meant for everyone. I don't think there's a one size fits all to anything. I think we're all unique and we all have our own skill sets that are unique to every one of us. And I think we should lean on what works for us best and use that to our full ability, just so we can evolve into the best humans possible. Not that only we can benefit from that and we can live a fulfilling, happy life, but we can show others that that's possible as well, which has an effect on everyone around us. I mean, I love that quote. It's like you heal yourself, you heal not just your family, but the family that's passed on and that's been behind you. Like they're seeing you heal from the other side, and it's more motivation to keep going and know that there's like this lower animalistic nature we all have inside of us, like these lower desires, whether it be lust or vices, like all these negative aspects of what it is to be human, like where we feel like we're just a lizard or an animal, just wanting to get off or something, like whatever it is, a quick fix to like escape. But I feel like we all have the potential to rise above those things, and it's up to us to want to change. You can have the best coaching in the world, but if you're not coachable, if you don't want the change yourself, nothing's going to happen. Like you got to be willing to put in the effort. And that's what I realized drinking ayahuasca the first time. Like I had been using psychedelics wrong my whole life, and ayahuasca really made me gain respect for plant medicine and just
a lot of purging.
Yeah, I didn't purge at all, like throwing up.
Nice.
For me, it was a lot of yawning,
Okay.
yawning, getting the sweats, getting the shivers, stuff like that. Just like having to get up and pee. but yeah, there's various different forms of purging, but I felt like there was all these different energies I was getting rid of that no longer served me. And, just selfish attributes about myself that I've, kind of carried out in the past that, really shine light on what I need to work on. And, just kind of gave me the roadmap and to building the life I wanted for myself, and, seeing the best possible life that could play out for me. But it was up to me to get there. But of course, when you're on the medicine, you're like, it's happening automatically. So you just think it's going to happen right away. But you quickly realize when you get down and that ayahuasca wears off, like, you got to keep doing the work. Like, it's not just because you took ayahuasca, like you're all of a sudden not going to want to vape or smoke or drink alcohol. Like, those things, like, you have the reminders, you have the experience of seeing that that's not serving you, or you probably shouldn't do that anymore. But it's truly up to you to find different habits and different I guess, like, ways you can use that work for you individually to, like, change these things and spot your triggers as they arise. Like, when someone comes at you and they say something degrading towards you or really piss you off, it's like, are you going to react immediately without even thinking? Like, just speak before you think and, like, get to their level of low vibration and, coming at you in anger and hurt. Because underneath that anger is just hurt. That's all it is. It's a hurt inner child that just wants love and affection that they didn't get at one point in time. So now you're getting the extreme of that, which is, blatant anger. And you have the choice to react in a loving way and an understanding way. And it's kind of having that empathy to get outside of yourself, put yourself in their shoes, and just respond in a loving way. And it's amazing what that change action can have. And I know it sounds like far-fetched, but in my experience, like, it's worked volumes for me and helped me grow a lot.
Yeah, well, it's a bettering of yourself. It's a test. It's going to keep popping up, and God's going to say, "Are you ready to advance yet? Or are you still hanging out down there? Or can we move on yet?"
It's definitely not far-fetched, but there are a lot of people that need to catch on to that,
right?
To pay attention to how they react.
The way that I figured this out, I was just experimenting with my life, and I was seeing how my external environment interacted with me, and I saw that some cars kept parking in my parking spot. So I was in an apartment at the time, and we had numbered parking spots, and my parking spot was all the way the furthest from my apartment. Like, I'm in this corner and that's in that corner, and so I wasn't going to steal someone else's parking spot, but I didn't have a tag to park on the street. So it would have been more convenient for me to park on the street, but I wasn't allowed to. And I would park in the employee parking lot, and then they started sending emails, and they're like, "Oh, no one can park here. If we come in and someone's in here, we're going to tow it." So then I had to stop parking there, and then I realized that people are parking in my parking spot. So then it's like every day, and I'm losing my mind. I'm like, why is this keep happening? And it was day after day after day. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to react to it today. And then the next day there was nothing there. So I park in my spot. And then it's like the next day someone's in there again. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to react again. And it was like 2 or 3 times of not reacting, or reacting in a lesser and lesser manner. And then no one parked there ever again. And I was like, wait, what just happened? How did I affect my reality that much just by how I'm responding? And I'm not even listening to podcasts that are telling me this is how reality works. I'm not reading books. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just having these thoughts are just coming to me that, okay, if I react in a different way, then I will get a different result. Because I think it was Einstein is the one that said that insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting different results. So I was like, okay, I'm going to change how I react to see if I get a different result. And I did. And I was like, wow, this is the most profound thing. Life is magic, and I can affect it based on my thoughts and actions. And like you said, you go running around screaming, and people think that you're crazy. And you know, I went from this drug addict, overweight, a horrible person, to running multiple softball teams at once, youth for my daughter and her friends, you know, that age, like 7, 8, 9 years old, at 10 years old. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, everyone starts thinking that I'm crazy because I'm telling them, oh, no, you can better your life. I've been bettering my life, and you guys all appreciated that I'm not a drug addict, and that I'm coaching your daughters, and that I'm running this team in such a good manner and helping create this great environment that the kids are really thriving. And now what? I'm crazy because I'm telling you there's more that you can do further, or was it that the machine was only trying to allow me to wake up to a certain point? You know, the matrix system that we're in. It was everyone that was programmed around me. They wanted me at a certain level, and I was like, no. I need to grow. I am a plant, and I need to go where the sun is. And when I moved to Georgia, it was like this whole blossoming thing that occurred with me.
Yeah, man. I think it's so important to know your worth and, you know, take your power back in a sense. And it's not like to say you're more powerful than God. It's just to know that you're powerful and like, you're not worthless. You're not, you don't not deserve to be here. Like you do have a purpose. You are here for a reason, you know, like, I love the, integration coach at the ayahuasca church I went to. He would always say, the world isn't complete without you. Like, and that always stuck with me of like, you know, we're all like this puzzle piece in this giant puzzle of everything, every living creature that makes up life. And without that piece, like life wouldn't be what it is. Like everything is happening, like life is happening for you, not to you. And
yes,
I think that's the attitude we got to have. And, you know, that attitude of gratitude, like, you know, if I got a flat tire, you know, today, like what was the underlying message beyond that? Like, was it to teach me, you know, I'm rushing and I need to slow down. Maybe I could be more patient than I have been. I've been getting, I get anxiety. I'm agitated when I'm impatient, you know, like there's all these negative emotions that can happen when you're impatient and rushing. You can make mistakes when you're rushing. And, you know, not just because we can be so hard on ourselves, like if something happens, because like everything's going good. And that's the thing too, with like Christianity too, and praying. It's like, pray when times are good too. Don't just pray when things go bad, because it's like when things go bad, now all of a sudden you need God, you need
Now
Christ.
you
It's
want
like,
something.
no. Yeah, exactly.
Instead of being grateful for having what you have. It's a whole different mindset of being thankful. Well,
yes,
for a lot of people, they don't take into account what has happened in the past. So if someone like me who has been to prison, has had sexual trauma, has had addictions, someone like me, I can recognize I am so grateful for having this right now. And it's not very much. I'm not saying at this moment, but sometimes, you know, when it's not very much, or when it's a not so nice day, I am grateful that I'm not in that jail cell. I'm grateful that I'm not in the prison cell in my mind of addiction. I am in the hell, not even a prison cell, in the hell that was in my mind of addiction. So I can exude gratitude whenever I want, because I have the memories of being in hell. So then I also have memories of being in heaven on earth, as in, you know, when Mimi and I took that vacation right before I talked to you. And I mean, it was the most perfect thing ever. Time seemed to not operate in the same manner when we were there. So showing gratitude, it's really the best way to change your life. It may actually be the only way to change your life in some sense of the word of gratitude, because if you don't have gratitude, then the alternative is may be suicide, which happens often. You know, you get to that brink. Are you going to flip it, or are you going to just fall off the edge?
Yeah. It's like it's that alchemical process, you know, turning that negative into a positive. And you know, we really have that power. And sometimes we get overtaken by these negative thoughts, you know, maybe they're demons, whatever they may be, but they, you know, it's like a virus that just like overtakes us, and we just can't see a way out. It's like we're sick and we never think we're going to heal. Like we always just think we're just going to be stuck in the bed, not able to get up, not able to function. Like it's just this ongoing thing, but it goes back to that definition of insanity. It's like if you think nothing's ever going to change, if you think doing the same shit every day is like gonna all of a sudden, you know, somebody's going to show up at your door and give you $1 million, like you're going to be waiting probably multiple lifetimes, you know, before that happens. So I'd say maybe think of something different. Like there's so much potential you have that's untapped. Like I'm nothing special, man. Like I'm thankful. I took the leap of faith in myself to, you know, start podcasting. And, you know, podcasting itself has been like such a healing process for me of just like finding my voice, speaking my truth, you know, knowing what I'm worth, knowing my potential, just hearing what other people have to say about me positively has been so freaking humbling. Like I can't even put it into words. Like,
well, and
like,
you are special too. You said you're not, but you're, I think what you're trying to say is you're not more special than anybody else, but you do recognize how special you are.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. Sometimes it doesn't come out the way I'm thinking of it, but yeah, I've always like, thrived on these, deep conversations and, you know, getting outside the norm. Like I'm tired of talking about sports and the weather and, you know, just monotonous topics. Like I live for these conversations, man. And to have the opportunity to talk to some of the people I've looked up to my whole life, you know, podcasts I've listened to for years, getting to talk to people like yourselves, like you guys are freaking awesome. And I love what you're doing. It's just overwhelmingly crazy to me, man, because like getting into this, you know, you have this mindset like it's not going to happen or something because you're like so stuck on old ways and how the past went in your life, and you're like, oh, it's just I'm just always gonna be average. Like I'm never gonna amount to anything special. Like it's never gonna happen. Like I know I always said it was. I always had these aspirations as a kid, but you know that was the past. Now I'm just working this dead end job, and like nothing's ever gonna come of it. But once I really started to believe in myself and really put that message out there, and like try to inspire others to believe in themselves along the way, like being radically honest, like I'm flawed, like I'm imperfect, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm actively trying to talk to people that have different ideas than I have and trying to build new ideas out of that. And you know, just merging with like minds, but also merging with minds you might not agree with on everything, but finding the commonalities, building a bridge, finding that common ground, and you know, just being able to influence the world in a way, man. And just, you know, I'm not just doing this for my own selfish desire to like live and have these conversations, but I get to share it with the world, man. And there's no better privilege than that, of just getting to share your message with the world. Like these elites are all wrapped up into this physical immortality, but I feel like you can have immortality in this realm just by leaving your legacy here, you know, having your message, whether you wrote books or, you know, you were a pastor, you know, you were a motivational speaker, you know, you were a huge athlete that kids looked up to, whatever it may be. Like just leave your mark and people will remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you're saying with the podcast thing, that when we first start out, we get so overwhelmed because we think we have to plan everything, that we have to know it all right away. And then we stop ourselves from, and I think that's matrix programming, like we were talking about earlier. I think that's built into us.
Yeah.
Not even fear, it's that the unknown or the uncertainty stops us from taking a leap of faith and building in something, saying we have to be complete, because what we see on TV is only the best of the best actors, and they tell us how hard it is to make it into Hollywood and the music industry and this and that. And the more that you look into all these things, the more you see how many talented people that there are. And then you start to ask the question of, why do the talented people, or I'm sorry, why do the people that get to be known by everybody, what are they doing to get there? It's not that they're more talented than others, but why is it that the same people get picked for the movie after movie? Not that they aren't talented, but it seems that you have to kind of do something to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're asleep to what's going on, you don't consider that, and you just think that, oh, I can't do it because I'm not special, because I just am a bot that is supposed to work, sleep, and pay bills. And I mean, and then we do little things, like we tell ourselves we're helping our families, we're having fun with our family, doing this, doing that, but then we're causing more traumas by not healing the past. And we don't want to ever look at the past. We want that closet door to stay shut. We don't want to look at it because it brings up hurt. And when I try healing my relationship with my mother all the time, she says, after we talk, I end up thinking about things from the past for a while, and then for like a week I'll be upset. And I'm like, well, I don't want you to be upset, but you do have to face things that have happened. You can't just, because that's part of my healing, is I have to heal my relationship with you. And part of that is bringing the light to the darkness that you have put on this part, because you see our relationship in one way and I see it in another way. So we have to somehow both see it from the other person's point of view, and it's going to hurt, but you have to do it. You have to participate if you want a relationship with me. And it's hard sometimes, but other days, like yesterday, I introduced her to flat earth a little bit, just that we're inside of a firmament, and then observational science tells us that the land that we're on is flat. And she's like, I never heard that before. And she was like amazed. And I was like, okay, well, she was actually open-minded to it. We were talking about the World's Fairs being racist, and how it was these white Europeans that went around conquering the world all at the same time, that it wasn't a coincidence that they all were doing it in conjunction with one another. So there's days like that, and I'm like, yes, I really broke through. And then a day like today, where she's wants me to tell her everything that happened in the podcast episode I wanted her to listen to. I'm like, just listen to it. And she's like, but did you talk about this? And I'm like, just go listen. And it was like 2 minutes of that straight. And I'm like, just please go listen. You'll find out if you just go listen. You spent more time talking to me than you would have already found this out if you would have just listened. She still wants to be spoon-fed some of the things, but we're getting there,
That's
it's
programming
awesome.
for sure.
Yeah.
You have to tell me what I'm supposed to think. Tell me what I'm supposed to know. Tell me what I'm supposed to feel. All of that.
Yeah. That was part of my awakening, was having to read articles. I had to force myself to, nope, I'm not going to share something. I have to go read it. I have to take this 2, 3, 4, or 5 minutes to actually inform myself.
Yeah, and even first off, I wanted to say forgiveness is a freaking superpower. Like,
I don't have that just yet. Not to the degree I need to.
Yeah, man, it's tough.
For me.
And it takes a lot of empathy and just finding that common ground and knowing that when you're forgiving someone else, it's not like, if someone stole your livelihood, like they stole your life savings, or, take it even more graphic, like they murdered a family member or something. Like,
Ooh.
sooner or later, you're going to have to face that pain. And the longer you carry that wound and that hurt and that anger and that frustration, like all those negative emotions that's going to carry, like sooner or later, you're going to have to, love that person enough to forgive them and know that they're human too. And they made a mistake. And I'm sure, they probably regret it. And they were in a horrible state of mind when it happened, whatever the action was or whatever that wound was. And, you're forgiving them for your own growth and your own healing. You're not forgiving them for them. Like what they did was wrong. And that's the misconception, I think, is you have to think that what they did was all of a sudden right to forgive someone, when I don't think that's the case. I think you can actively acknowledge that what they did was horribly wrong and never should happen again. But for my own sake, I'm going to forgive them and know that, I think they were probably born pure, and at some point, they had some traumatic event or multiple traumatic experiences that led them down the path they were on to commit this atrocity. But I think just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you have to be like, all right, now come over for tea today. Like, no, like you can have healthy boundaries along with that, and still love them from a distance, and just for your own sake, so you don't have to carry that burden anymore, and you can just grow from it.
Yeah, there's more of that psychology that we're talking about, because you're saying, there's something that happened to that person. They were a pure person, and there's something that happened at some point that instead of going down this path, they veered off and went this way. And why is that? There's probably something very traumatic there it was probably fork in the road after fork in the road after fork in the road, and instead of going straight, now they're going backwards and down. And it's it's that understanding that, okay, how did this happen to me? Now I understand how I got this way. Could other people have faced this? And then you start talking to people, and you realize, oh yeah, a lot of people have gone through a lot of different things. And now I have more compassion and empathy, and now I can forgive. And when I was saying I don't have that superpower yet, it's, for me, I have the ability to forgive, but it's not something that I exude. I exude certain characteristics, but forgiveness is something that I still need to work on more and more. It's one of my weaknesses at the moment. So it's not that I don't forgive, because I've forgiven a lot of people for a lot of things that I'll say have wronged me, just for ease of terms, but we get to a place where we want to continually better ourselves, when we want to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and we want to be able to have that superpower of forgiveness, the superpower of love and compassion and kindness, just pure kindness. And that may be one of the most difficult things to have, is pure kindness. And it's rare, but when you find someone with it, you know it, and you're like, wow, this person they're the most happy person that the people that are actually kind, they're the most happy people that you know.
Yeah, man. And I think, in this world, we can get kind of lost in that. And I think that's what's so important, to show up every day as the best person you can be, and to be that person, be that change you wish to see in the world. And, because you look around and, you see so many selfish acts around you, like you don't see a lot of motivation, but then when you see it, it's like, oh, like it does exist. Like there are genuinely good people out there. And I think that's what a lot of it comes down to, is like we all have some level of trust issues, whether it be for authority, for our neighbor, for our siblings, for our mother, our father, our kids, whatever it may be. And you know, what we were just talking about, like, and I was just taking it to like this lifetime, but like that person that murdered your family member, that had traumatic experiences, imagine their parents and their parents and their parents, you know, like it's a continuous line of trauma that's got to be healed at some point. And the moment it's healed, it causes a ripple effect. And I think everyone can start to feel off of that, because I feel like we all have this light within us, man. And like we can light up a room like with the right, you know, intention, right energy we're bringing into it. And, you know, every time we do that, it's like we're lighting more candles, and, you know, we're seeing more love in the world. We're seeing more kindness. We're seeing more compassion. We're seeing people let their guard down, you know, seeing men be unafraid to express their emotions and to be vulnerable and not ashamed to be judged for it. You know what I mean?
That's
And
the strongest men that there are the ones
yeah,
who, when we pretend we don't have weakness, that shows weakness. But when
yeah,
we are so strong that we can show our true emotion, that is the strongest man that there is.
yes, could not agree more. Like it's so important. And I feel like that's why addictions can take us such a downward spiral, is because we're so detached from our emotions. And you know, we just keep putting a band-aid over the problem, but we're never getting to the root of the problem and where that problem actually came from. And like, yeah, there's so many different ways that can help with that, whether it be breath work, you know, plant medicine, going to therapy, whatever it may be. There's many people out there that try so many different methods before they find what works for them. But that's the journey. And I think that's the beauty of it, is like we all have this finish line in mind we're trying to get to. Like once we get to the finish line, like we're just going to be happy, and life might as well be over at that point, because we already got everything we wanted, not realizing like it wasn't the finish line. That was just a checkpoint, you know, like it's the journey. It's
I think love and
journey that life
forgiveness is the name of the game. I think that forgiveness is a huge key in healing everyone's traumas. You know, when
Yeah.
I did an exercise one time to send love to someone that wronged me, and that was like, you want me to do
Powerful.
what? You want me to do what? And you know, and until you
You're like,
really
"What?"
do it, you don't know, you know, the results. You know, you can
Yeah.
pretend to do it, but when you intentionally send
Yeah.
real love to someone that has wronged you, it frees you. It like releases chains.
Yeah.
And it does so much.
Yeah, Kara Mosher, she came on here and told us that she sent love to Trump, and that's what woke her up. She was doing a meditation or a technique to send love to the person she hated most in the world, and it was Trump.
It works.
And she
I
did,
mean,
and it woke
does
her up
something.
completely. I mean, it's that powerful. And now she has a great podcast, and she has had this very quick awakening, as most of us really have as of late. But I mean, when we can, like Mimi just
Forgive
said,
and love.
yeah,
You have to send forgiveness and then send your love.
yeah,
Your light, as you were saying.
that little
And
light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tricky too, man, because like seeing the darkness in the world, and, you know, you said you watched Loose Change in 2004, so you've been aware of some happenings for a while. But you know, seeing all the darkness in the world, it's hard not to focus on it. You know what I mean? And like that take all your energy away and like capture your focus of attention. And because it's a tricky tightrope we're walking, of like how much energy are we going to pour into the problem versus pour into the solution. And that's the tricky part, is like staying positive and keeping hope alive while seeing all this darkness in the world, and thinking of ways we can combat it with love and not more reaction of that same darkness. You know, it's like we're we're building the problem into a bigger thing because
Black-pilled.
we're focused on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
We're echo chambered.
Yeah. The black pilling, there's the blue pill, the red pill, and then there's the black pill. And some people even say the white pill. People that have too much hope is the white pill, which I think that's a better stance than the black pill. The black pill is someone who has no hope. And I find often that people that are black pilled are the ones who aren't spiritually connected, that they're not healing, they're just looking at the darkness, so they don't know that there's light because all they surround themselves with is darkness. And even people who follow Christ, who is the ultimate light, it is the source of light, they'll follow Christ and they'll just stare at the darkness. And I've been called a false prophet. I've been called that I've compromised myself, that I've lost my way, all sorts of different things, because I talk to people of all walks of life. And I just tell them Proverbs 3:5 is a Bible passage that I just found out about the other day. And it says in there that, I'm just paraphrasing here, but it's, let him and his God work it out. You can't play a role in that, essentially. It is you and your spirit within you that's doing your path. No one else can do your path for you. I can't tell. I'm a man, I can't tell Andre Mytty what's best for him. Only the spirit within him can tell him that. So if you are doing some practice that I wouldn't do, that I don't know about, or even if I do know about it, I can't convince you to do something different, because it may be the best thing ever. And my spirit in me is telling me, no, be afraid. That's not for you. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means it's not for me. So it's a very fine line. And especially when people want to confine God to 66 books and
four walls.
that were written according to the timeline we're told is thousands of years ago. I mean, we just can't do that. God is everything. You cannot confine God to that. Now, that is a very good book to have and to understand and read, but he can't be confined to that. He is everything and everywhere, and words are human things that are made up, and it is the energy and intention behind the words that really matter. It's the exuding love and forgiveness. It's exuding the characteristics. It's being what Christ would be, and it doesn't matter in what way you present that. It just matters that you do that. So as an energy reader, this is something that's fairly easy for me, because I don't listen to people's words anyway. When their mouth is moving and I feel something else, I disregard everything they're saying. I'm like, nope, lie, 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 lie. And a lot of the times they don't even recognize it, because they're so untruthful with themselves that they can't possibly know that they're lying. And I've been having this thought lately that we all share this moral compass. So that's what happens. We're born with a moral compass. And when we start to sin, our moral compass is saying go north, and it's straight ahead. And then we go east, or we go west, or we go west. We're just running in circles. We don't know what's going on. We break our compass. And then when we get to the awakening moment, each of us, we then give up different things. I realize that I shouldn't be eating these unhealthy foods. I realize I shouldn't be smoking these things. I realize I shouldn't be drinking these things. And you put them down because you got to recalibrate that compass. And as you put things down, the compass gets recalibrated. Then you can pick them back up and you're like, okay, it's good for me again. Or maybe it's something that's an alternative that's better for me than before. And that's how it happens. We all have to listen to ourselves. We all have to be God of ourselves, not God of each other. I can't force someone to be me. I mean, I have to figure out how to be me, just like
Right.
Mimi has to figure out how to be her.
You have to be the ultimate observer.
Yeah. Like
And you have to realize that like what you said, everything in life happens for you, not to you. And when you really think about why something is happening for you, that's where you learn what to do.
Yeah. And you start to trust it, and, start to look for those signs that are pointing you in the right direction. Like, yeah, you are making the right decisions. You have made some great changes, and the universe will kind of show you that. God will show you that through signs and wonders. I think it states that in the Bible. And, Jesus always said to love your enemies. And you brought up a great point about, all this hate you're receiving because you're not this perfect Christian or whatever those individual trolls like define as the perfect Christian, like that exists. Like, look at Jesus, like embody that,
He was denied by
but look at what they're
followers.
reflecting about
Or not his
themselves.
followers, his people,
Exactly.
his peers. Yeah,
Exactly.
And he said,
Go ahead.
if someone slaps you on the left cheek, give them the right cheek. Come on, give me some more. Someone steals your jacket, give them your shirt. Like, you need this. You need this more than I do, since you got to steal it from me. You want to show them their own guilt right away, and that's essentially why he was killed, because he showed them how guilty that they actually were.
He was a mirror, reflecting back onto them what they were reflecting onto him, and
Reflector man.
Yeah. And I was just gonna say, like, that's why I have so much respect for people like yourself, you too, Mimi, and Truth Seeker, man, because I just think you guys are blazing a trail, and you're kind of showing people that there is a different way than this, orthodox, you got to go to church, you got to wear a suit every Sunday, like, you got to be this perfect person who doesn't get too out of line politically, or is just this right person that never questions anything that's said in church. And I think you guys bring up a lot of great points, and I think you guys are creating an audience that otherwise wouldn't have people to ask questions to, like yourselves, who have been able to merge. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, any spiritual practice is bad that whoever once upon a time said it was bad. Like, I think that's silly to put yourself in a box like that. And I feel sorry for the people that are still stuck there. And I think you guys see that, yeah, Jesus is great. Jesus is our Lord and Savior. And I love that whole mantra and that belief. I see nothing wrong with it. I just think people can take that and run with it and like point fingers at others and think they're better than others because they have it all figured out. And I think one of the greatest quotes to ever be wrote was every wise man knows himself to be a fool, and the fool knows himself to be a wise man. And I think a lot of people forget that, they forget, like, we're never going to have it all figured out. Like, yeah, we're going to get close. Yeah. And like, we get on this, we put ourselves on these pedestals. And as long as you're looking at every other human you interact with, like directly, face to face, eye to eye, like, you're never going to see people that way. But if you look up to people or you look down on people, you're going to get mixed up in this life,
Right. And I don't want any Christians out there thinking that we're talking bad about Christianity. I don't get it very often. Any kind of negative comments really at all. I get a ton of positivity, but I'm just saying, when I hear someone say like, I'm a false prophet and I, the things that I wear Jesus, everything,
all day, every day. It's not just for the podcast.
I know, it's like KB says in the one song, it's Jesus, Jesus, till I'm that annoying, like I really try to be like Jesus, not like Christianity, like Jesus, not like the Bible, like Jesus.
You have a witness.
Yeah.
That's what I respect.
Yeah. So
and that should be the main focus, man. And I think you guys get that. You and True Seeker get that. And like I said, man, that's why I respect you guys so much, because I was raised Christian, and I know the drill, man, and I know the judgment and the shame you can experience, with some people. And to tell you the truth, that's what like drove me away from going to an organized church. Was I realized like no one can tell me anything about what I believe in and what my connection is to God. Like I know that myself. I've experienced it. Like I don't need anyone to tell me I'm a false prophet or I'm a this or that. Like you go ahead and like pretend you know what I am when you probably don't know who you are as a person either. So thinking you understand me, I think you're just wasting your time, like even spending your energy on
Most
that.
are
It's just
like
drama.
literal churches of judgment.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
trying to live through
I mean-
Jesus's experience rather than have their own experience.
Right.
I mean, it's a wonderful thing to live by, to want to be him. I want to be him, but in me, I don't need to do what he did. I just need to do, what would he do if he were in my shoes now? That's really how I approach life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
to
man.
me, no, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, growing up Catholic and stuff, forced into Catholic school, like,
Same.
I just remember going to confession and like getting
Same.
out of there, and just feeling like good for like a little while, because like I was saved because this priest, who may or may not have been a pedophile, just forgave my sins, because he's the only pathway to God, I'm told, to like get that done, like get my sins forgiven, is like to tell this guy. And
That
now
you were
it's so.
mean to your brother or
Yeah,
sister, your
yeah,
mom or your
and-
dad,
yeah, and now I can go drink a beer, I can go smoke weed if I want, like I can do all these things that
And
were
then just come
bad.
back
You
and tell
just
him.
say your Hail
Yeah, I'll
Mary
just
and
come
your
back to
Our
confession.
Father, and
Yeah, like
that's
and
it.
it's like a perpetual cycle.
right,
And
and
it's
it's so
like
funny
you
that
don't have to make the change because Jesus is
right,
coming back. Like there's a
right,
lot of
and
that.
they have these practices that are good. It sounds good, but
Yeah.
the way that it's used, like if you just do that for yourself, because that's what I tell people. I'm like, yeah, repent, talk to God. Don't go in your car, go in your closet, go in your bedroom, talk to
Yes.
God out loud,
Right.
confess to him, and tell him, I don't want to do this anymore. Please take this away from me.
But for the
You don't,
grace of God, I go.
yeah, you don't
Yeah.
need to go to some other person.
Right.
When I tell my daughter, and she has a great relationship. She's like, I talk to God all the time. I'm like, all right, cool. And then how do I know that she's doing that? I just have faith, because then I see how she acts and how she's treating me. And I'm like, okay, I can see she's
Observation.
repented. Her repentance is abundantly clear to me. And that's really the only way to change anybody's opinion about you, because, of course, when we get these awakening moments, like you said, people think we're crazy. And I've learned through experience that the only way to change someone's opinion is to stop talking about it and be about it. Give
Yeah,
them
show
no
them.
other evidence other
Yep.
than what you
Absolutely.
are
Your
becoming.
actions. Yep.
Yeah.
Actions speak so much louder than words. And it took me so long to understand that and like truthfully embody that. And
Yeah.
I still have so much work to do, but that's
Of
been a
course.
daily
We all
practice of
do.
mine for a while. Yeah, man. And just like a daily affirmation for me is like, dear God, let my actions, my thoughts, and my words be in harmonic alignment in this moment and every moment that passes. Like that's like a daily thing, man, of just holding myself accountable. But when I do have slip ups, like, oh, I smoked the other day or something like that, like not getting so down on myself, like it's over now, throw the bucket in, like now I'm going to be smoking
I
every
might as well
minute
be an
of the
addict.
rest of
Yeah.
my life. Yeah, it's like, no, like don't be so hard on yourself. Like remember that you're human, and like you are gonna have slip ups, you're gonna make
So
mistakes,
yourself
but
grace.
yeah,
Yes.
appreciating your wins and appreciating how far you've come up to that point. Like how long were you sober or weren't craving whatever your vice was up until that point? Give
Mhm.
yourself credit for that and then restart after you slipped up, keep it
Yeah.
going.
And what you were saying about truth seeking and I being on a similar path, last night I was on a Zoom call with him, and there were many other people that were coming in and out, and it was the most exhilarating conversation of my life. There was, at any time 6 to 10 people on, and we're talking about Christ, and it's iron sharpening iron of people who Christ is the central figure, and then we're talking about extensions of what is the truth. We're, everyone's a truth seeker in one way or another. We're trying to find out how to live, how to act. And when we're on there, it's just this, I feel this energetic, I don't really know how to say it, but other than this energetic high that we're all sharing in this one moment. And it was really so beautiful. But then, reflecting on it, I could see that certain people that had one opinion were of one kind of mindset because of their experience, and then people who were of the opposite opinion had the opposite experience, or not the opposite experience, but just a different experience with their own mindset. So what I'm getting at here is people who have been shown grace, people who have been in hell and have been shown grace, are more willing to exude that grace than those who have never, who think that they haven't had it because they haven't done something so wrong as to where it was this dramatic slingshot. So it's those, and it came down to that. I thought of it this afternoon. I was like, wow, it was those who exude grace are ones who have, it's been abundantly clear to them that grace is there for everybody. And those who don't see the grace are those who haven't needed it as strongly as the others. And then you can see, oh, okay, this is why you have this perception. This is why you have this perception, because it's experience, and
different levels.
And it was really the most exhilarating conversation of my life. I was on such a high all day until they were spraying in the sky, and it was awful, the amount of spraying that they did today. But it was great.
It's never good to see, but that's beautiful reflection, man. I had some beautiful conversations as well on some of those calls with Trusika. I was on his Patreon for a while.
Oh, nice.
I need to interact with him more, but since I've been running my own podcast, it's hard enough to keep up with all my guests and everything. But I'm so grateful to have built a good relationship with Derek Trusika, over the last couple of years, and being one of my first guests on my podcast, and just always being there as like a mentor, a voice of reason, somebody that would help me if I had questions. Like, I have so much respect for him, and I was planning on getting down to one of his men's only retreats, and I'd still like to do that. I think he has them down in Alabama. That would be awesome, man, if we could all meet up down there. But I think both you guys are doing great work, and I'm so happy to see you guys connect, because I knew you guys would hit it off. And I think it's all about finding your tribe, man, however way that happens. Like, we just kind of meet the right person that helps us meet the right person a lot of times,
Oh yeah. And I mean, you're doing tremendous stuff as well. And the synchronicity that really kicked it all off was you telling me, especially, was your podcast is called Ascension of the Chessmen. And I just came back from my vacation at the mountains over Christmas that day. And you tell me about him, and I go back and I look, and it was my birthday was the day that you put out the podcast with him, and I was like, wow, look at that.
Oh wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then he was my first interview of the new year. So,
wow. That's beautiful.
So it was like a week later, and it was all set up. You facilitated all that because you're interviewing such great people on your podcast. I mean, you have some of these names here. You got Andy Rouse.
Like more than 2 dozen listed
Natasha
that we know and love.
Brandon Thomas, Matt Landman, Jim Gale, Bruce DeTorres, Matt Belair, Miguel Connor, Andreas Exertus, Micah
Yeah.
Dank, Mark Steves. I mean, just so many different people that I had these people on, you've had these people on, and
They're great
Yeah.
people.
yeah, I mean, just having conversations with the same like-minded people. This community is
Yeah.
so large, and sometimes it takes a little while to come around to somebody else
Yeah.
that then once you do, you like become best friends because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, we're so like-minded. We weren't ready to meet just yet, and it's a beautiful synchronicity the way God
Growing
does
every
that.
day.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing is like, for all the bad things the internet has done and, has given us access to, like,
Mhm.
the pornography that's free and accessible to anyone, like, kids can be access to that. Like, we have the opportunity to connect in the way we are right now and, meet all these like-minded people all around the world, not just around the country and like in these different states. And it gives us the opportunity to uh, build what we want to see in the world and build these communities all over where we can get together and we can have events, whatever. Like, the sky is the limit for what we can achieve together. And that's what's been such a motivating factor for me, and what keeps me going and keeps booking guests is just seeing how much everyone wants to help each other. No one's like, because I always thought getting into this world, it would be like dog eat dog. Like, everyone's
Right.
Mm-hmm.
everyone's trying to, steal guests or, just, badmouth people behind their back. Just,
Mhm.
it has been nothing like that at all since I've
Yeah, it's
got
the
in. It's been
complete opposite.
quite
It's like, hey, I have a
quite
whole
the
bunch of
opposite.
guests I would like to give you to put on
Exactly.
your show.
I'm always referring guests out, and I'm like happy doing it. I'm like, this is so awesome. I get to connect people like that I know
I
will
Yeah.
like
hit it
doing that
off.
too.
So
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time I do it, it's like a pat on my back. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and the way that it works out, for me anyway, it's typically synchronistic. Like I had on
Yeah.
Natasha, then I had on this woman Alexia, and they were both covering autism in a different way.
Mm,
And I told Natasha,
yeah.
I'm like, hey, you check out this episode, and you may want to interview her. It'll help you with the work that you're doing. So
Yeah.
when you're connecting something like that, maybe the connection doesn't even happen, but just bringing the awareness or being able to provide an outlet for someone to
Yeah.
meet someone new. I mean, that could be life changing for many people if that happens and the
Yeah.
right words get said to the right people at the right times.
My brain
Yeah.
works like that at every interview. My brain automatically goes to, oh, that would be a good person for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I learn to keep it
Yeah.
in.
It's truly beautiful just to see us all come together. And yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like, recently there was some drama with some podcasters, and
Yeah, that was
I just
weird.
yeah, I just see that shit as petty, man. And it's like, we're all just trying to have fun here. We're all trying to, spread the good word, be explorative and new ideas, and learn from each other. We're not trying to, like, put a bullseye on anybody. Like, we're all in this together, and
Yeah.
we all have way more in common than we have different. Like, we forget that. Like, yeah, we all have trauma. Like, we're all trying to love, we're all trying to heal, we're all trying to help each other grow into better people, and be motivational and inspirational to each other, and just keep building a better future as we proceed.
Yeah, I just had this quote the other day. It came to me, and I said it again yesterday. I'm about to say it now. Do we find solidarity within the differences, or do we find division within the similarities? And I
Mm,
think that we often are looking to divide ourselves within our groups. Christianity is a big thing
yeah.
that I'm describing here, is that they have such a similarity, and then they divide themselves and further divide themselves. The conspiracy
Yeah.
theory community, the same way that they
Yep.
have, because we get lost in these logos. What are the logos? What
Right.
is this? Is this evil? Is that evil? And then your mind starts playing tricks on you. It's
Yeah.
it's both. It's the thought coming, tricking you again. It's instead of just trusting that no matter what I'm doing, I'm just going to do me and trust in my God, that I'm not going to be too concerned with if I say, hey, I have this person on my podcast. You can go check them out at their website. And maybe they're doing stuff that I don't know about or that I do know about and don't agree with. But that is up to the individual. I'm not responsible for you. I'm just bringing people on because, well, maybe I'm having this person on so that their audience comes to me and hears me talking about Christ, and now I'm bringing them in. Maybe I'm more trusting of people who are listening to my podcast and saying they have the discernment to read between the lines. They have the discernment to know what not to do and what to do. But I'm also bringing in flock who haven't had the light shown on them. So, we do things strategically, and God especially does things strategically and sets things up in motion the way he does because of that's how he works. He leaves the 99, it's when we have the 99 sheep in the stable, he leaves to go get the one. I'm the shepherd that's leaving that comfort of the 99. I could be in a church and I could be, I don't know what just happened. My mic just muted.
Yeah,
but
you were muted.
I could be singing in a church and be very loving and just doing my thing with people who are all like-minded like me, and that would be cool with the 99. But you know what? I have to go find the lost. I have to be uncomfortable, and I have to do things that I really would rather not do in order to find the lost, because they're lost, and I'm trying to show them the way home, and they're not gonna find it if I don't go help them. So while we have the pastors that are doing their thing, keeping the 99 occupied, you got people like yourself, you got people like me, like Trusika, who are going and getting the lost, and we're doing it in our own ways. And I mean, there's people getting the lost that don't even know that they're doing it, and it's happening all over, and it's just beautiful. It is a very loving, graceful moment that is happening on earth. But there is the other side to it, craziness, of course, with the government and media, but that's always gonna be there, until we remove those entities. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and just don't lose yourself in that shit, because like you said, it's always gonna be there.
Distraction's always gonna be there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just because it's rainy out today or snowing, like you can still go for a run. Like you can still do what you had planned to do. Just because some storm clouds roll in, don't let it kill your sunshine. Like there's always an opportunity to do it. It's up to you to decide if you're going to go forth with it. Like you always have the option. Like everything's an offer in this life, and we can accept or decline, and hopefully accept the good ones and reject the bad offers.
Right. So do you have any more questions? This was a great conversation.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, this was a smooth hour and a half. I mean, it was like nothing. It was like water.
I lost track of time.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah,
so Andre, do you want to let our audience know where they can find you and where they can get some of your awesome merch? I saw your shirt, and I do want to say, because it has the checkerboard on there and the Freemasons are a checkerboard, I still love the shirt. I don't care if people want to say like, oh, that's a Freemason sign. To me, that's a badass shirt. So congrats on that. It's awesome.
No, my whole goal in that logo is just to rise above that shit. Like that shit has no power over us. Like we empower ourselves.
I love the explanation even better.
Yeah, the angel over top of it.
Yeah, like you can pick out how many numbers are on the board, say it's 666 or something crazy, but No, like the whole imagery is just about rising above this matrix or this game of lies we buy into, that we're separate and we're, not reflections of each other, like that we're not all human here. Like we all have our faults, we all have our, skills and good traits and bad traits. Like just focus on what works for you and be that love you wish to see in the world. You can find me at Ascension of the Chessmen podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, pretty much all the podcast platforms. I currently don't have a website. You can find me on Facebook at Andre Mytty, and also Instagram. I'm kind of figuring this out as I go. I'm quite the amateur at this. Like I said, I always thrive on these type of conversations. So I'm kind of learning as I go. So hopefully that motivates others to do the same, that there's no excuse for why you can't do what I'm doing. Like I'm just living out what I dreamed I could do. And here I am doing it. It doesn't take much skills. You just got to have the want to, and have a smartphone. You can record a podcast. So there's nothing much more you need.
Yeah. Hey, I've switched microphones so many times. I mean, I have my old mixer down here. I don't know. The camera can't pick it up because, here, I'll pick it up and show. Like I got my old mixer down there. I got old microphones. Yeah. I've bought so many all that equipment. I bought so much just because I'm learning as I go. Like you said, it's all about just better myself little by little, and I'll get to where I want to be. So
yeah, and there's never going to be a right time. Like just do it,
Now is always the right time.
Now is always the right time. Like there's always a million excuses. Just do it.
Yeah.
Take the leap. If one's in front of you, take it.
Yeah.
Yes. Couldn't agree
all right
more.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for coming out and checking us out. Go stop by Andre's podcast and say hello. Hit him up for a shirt through a message on IG or Facebook.
Media. Yeah.
All right. So we'll say goodbye to our audience. Goodbye, everybody. We will talk to you later.